This video is sponsored by Single Point Solution. Single Point is pioneer in production and distribution of electric vehicles like electric bikes, electric scooters and three-wheelers. Single Point also provide consulting services to small F players.
Hello friends, this is Chandrayaan from Akulmac Technologies and welcome to Top Brass. And in Top Brass session today, which is a Saturday, I thought I'll bring much talked about ISRO next project. So we are already in 2020 and there are many projects which are coming out from ISRO. This year, next year, and every year until 2024. So I have compiled a list of all the projects that ISRO is working on, and in 2020 there will be some projects. But before we start, very briefly, I would like to mention that ISRO had a very humble beginning. In the 50s and in the 60s, they didn't even have vehicles of their own. They used to carry the weather balloon rockets in 50s and 60s on bicycles and fire them from Sriharikota. From there, all the technology which ISRO has indigenously developed, and now a lot of advanced projects are coming up in the coming years. So let's start about what are the next projects. So the next project that ISRO is coming out with in 2020, which is called ADITYA. Now this is a spacecraft which will go and study the sun. And sun, as you know, has many things, it has many layers, and it is important to study the different layers of sun. So ADITYA carries it's like a space laboratory. It carries multiple devices on board. It carries the visible emission coronagraph. It also carries a ultraviolet imaging telescope. It carries solar wind particle experiment laboratory. Also carries plasma analyzer and solar energy and X-ray spectrometer, and also carries the high energy orbiting X-ray spectrometer. So it is packed with a lot of high-tech measurement devices, and the idea is basically to study. There are hardly any study done, except NASA has done some study, but predominantly all we know about sun today is because of the research done by NASA, and they had sent some of their probes. So India became one of the elite companies to do research on sun. And as you know, it's still a mystery that why the corona, which is a visible part of the sun, is so hot and so bright. Although the surface of the sun is not very hot, it is something like 5,000 to 6,000 centigrade, whereas the temperature in plasma, which is the atmosphere outside the surface of the sun, the temperature can go up to millions of dollars. So I think it's a big mystery, and ADITYA will help us solve this mystery. This spacecraft is going to be launched in 2020. So I think all eyes in the sky this year to see ADITYA being fired from Sriharikota. Moving on, in 2022, a joint project between ISRO and NASA. It's called NISSAR. It's basically N stands for NASA, I stands for ISRO, and SAR project. What are the the agenda for SAR is basically study the planet Earth, and it carries a lot of measurement devices on board. It will go around the Earth, and it will carry the experiment from space about the planet Earth, which are very complex in nature. Things like ecosystem disturbances. You know how much carbon in forest, and there is a forest fire. What is happening? So any ecosystem disturbances, this satellite will do the experiment and will tell us what is going on with the environment. Other thing it will experiment on is the ice sheet collapse, because as we know that temperature is going up and the polar ice is melting. So how fast and what is going on in Antarctica and the polar region. Any other natural hazards, things like earthquake, tsunami, and also the volcanic eruptions. So this is something which is going to be launched in 2022, and this will make the vital study about the planet Earth. And again in 2022, the spacecraft which is very exciting, it's called GAGANYAN. As you know, Gagan stands for the sky and Yan stands for the craft. So this is, as the name suggests, this is a manned mission to space, and it will carry three Indian space travelers to space. So we don't know whether they are going to be called astronauts or we will have some other name. But let's see, we will wait and watch what Indian astronauts or the space travelers will be called. The spacecraft is called KAZANYAN, and this is exactly how it looked like. This is a very complex project because 3 passengers from India will have to go to space and survive there for 7 days. So they will have to live in a very comfortable environment, and this is how the spacecraft look like. It has a chamber for the space travelers to carry out different experiments and also to sleep and also to do their daily chorus. It should also have life support system. It should also have things like what food to carry for 7 days, and it is going to be a very huge spacecraft. And that is why the rocket which will be firing it is also supposed to have that kind of thrust, so that it can carry the payload for the manned mission into the space. So this is very exciting. In 2022, 3 Indian citizens will travel to space, and also they will have the space suits which will be indigenously developed and so on. And there are a lot of other things which will come. So I think we will hear more about this. The launch of Gaganyaan is scheduled in 2022. Moving on, the Shukrayaan. Shukrayaan, as Indians would know, that Shukra is the name of planet Venus. And as you know, Venus is the hottest place in the solar system. The surface temperature of Venus goes upwards of 500 degrees, which is very hot. Even the lead melts on the surface of Venus. Only Russian, when they were USSR, they did a lot of unmanned probe. They sent a lot of unmanned probe, and they did a lot of experiments with Venus. And whatever we know is because of the Russian probes, which were sent by the USSR in those days. And so that's why we know. From Earth, we cannot see very well because the Venus as a planet is covered in very thick carbon dioxide clouds, acidic clouds. So it's kind of obscured, and we cannot see the surface very clearly. And that is the reason, because it's all covered with cloud. The Venus is the brightest planet of all the planets. You can see it next to the moon every night. It remains along with Mars, along with Mercury, visible to naked eye for a couple of hours in the evening, just after twilight. And that is why this is also known as evening star, because it shines like very bright, very bright star, but it does not twinkle because it's a planet. So this Shukrayaan is scheduled to fly in 2023. It will carry a lot of experiment devices for carrying out experiments on the planet Venus, whether humans can survive, what is the pressure on the surface, what is the what is the temperature across different layers of atmosphere, and so on. So this is going to be very, very exciting scientific experiment, and we will learn more about planet Venus after this spacecraft which is fired in the space. And this is how it may look like. The French Space Agency is going to help us build this spacecraft and some of these components. Now the Mangalyaan. We had the most successful journey to Mars, and as you know, Mangal stands for Mars in India. And in the first attempt, we reached Mangal, and we actually carried out a lot of experiments. So in case of Mangalyaan in 2024, this second attempt by India to send another probe to planet Mars. It will carry out a lot of geological survey of Mars. It will tell us more information. Although there are a lot of rover missions planned already by NASA, so they are collecting a lot of information. But I think Mangalyaan 2 will have certain specific experiment on board, which will make it different. So not much of information available right now, but in 2024, the Mangalyaan 2 project is scheduled by NASA. And the last but not the least, the most ambitious project, it's Chandrayaan. And as you know, Chandra is moon in Indian language. So Chandrayaan is version 3, because version 2 did not succeed completely. I mean, we were able to orbit successfully around the moon. The whole trick was to land the lander on safely on the surface of the moon. It's a very tricky task because there has to be a re-entry, all activities which has to happen like clockwork, very precise. Right at the moment, I think a few kilometers above the surface of the moon, our lander crashed, did not survive, even though it is not very clear that some components may have survived, as NASA has confirmed that we also had a rover placed inside this spacecraft of Chandrayaan 2, which NASA says that it has survived, and they tried to contact the lander through the orbiter, and their efforts failed. So the Chandrayaan 3, very, very complex project, which is scheduled in 2024 again. It's the third attempt by India. The first was successful. We were able to orbit the moon, and we discovered ice on the dark side in one of the craters. So that gave some sort of excitement to mankind that if there is water, we can probably go and settle and make a colony on the surface of the moon. And Chandrayaan 2 did not completely succeed, and Chandrayaan 3 is scheduled in 2024. So it's quite exciting. So many high-tech projects are coming up from ISRO, and I think this place we need to watch out starting from 2020. Almost every year there are new projects and new new milestones ISRO is trying to achieve. And 2022 we will have a manned mission to space, and 2024 we will have 3 missions, which is going to Mars, going to Moon, and also experimenting with the very powerful rockets which can take these huge spacecraft along with all the payload into space. So dear friends, this is something which on a Saturday I thought I'll share with you. I'm quite excited to know that this year we have ADITYA being launched by ISRO, and every year there is something which is being launched. There are a lot of development happening around the manned mission, which is being planned for 2022. That is again going to be very excited, and I'm very excited about the achievements of ISRO. Do write to me, and I will address your concerns and your comments. Maybe if you have any questions, we can take it up in the next video, and we can address all those questions. So I will meet you next time as usual. Until then, bye-bye.